right, welcome everybody to our episode 7 of Creativity in the Valley. Today we have a super amazing guest with some really cool little creations she's made. It's Adrienne from Entangled Forest. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come by and have a little chat with us. So what we talk about here in the podcast is we like to talk to like-minded people that are creative, right? And if you're just looking at some of your cool little guys here, you've got a creative mind because these are all kind of, you know, visions that you've kind of created in yourself and you kind of put them to actuality, which is really kind of cool. So we're going to start off with asking you kind of about you and how you kind of got where you are right now. So that's going to be the first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been creating since I was about 5 years old. I started with hand sewing and I sewed little dresses for my Barbies and little costumes for them, and I made, well, I didn't have a Barbie house, so I used suitcases and shoe boxes, and I made all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah.
And since then, I've kind of taken up, I'm kind of like a hobby collector, I say. I do a lot of different things. So I hand process wool in a lot of different ways from local farmers. Mm-hmm. And I dye it and I turn it into felted pieces. I also spin yarn and I knit, I crochet, I embroider, I make dolls, I do all sorts of things.
So anything that involves your hands, you pretty much do,
Pretty
right?
much, yeah. And I've tried so many other things. Like I've done stained glass, I've done clay work. Like I like to try out new things and challenge myself. I think that's mostly what it's about.
So you actually get the wool from like local farmers for your
Most of it,
stuff?
yeah.
And then you dye it yourself?
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it takes actually a lot of work to wash it. Like the wool is very greasy. There's a lot of lanolin in it, which makes it sticky.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work and a lot of hot water and labor to wash it all. And then I have something called a drum carder, which basically looks like a medieval torture device. It has all these teeth on it. And I have to card it, which is just brushing it basically so all the fibers align. Yeah. And then I dye it using acid dyes that are protein reactive. Huh. And and then I use it for all sorts of things. Some of it I use for stuffing for my dolls. Some of it I use for my my wool paintings and things.
These are really neat. We're going to get to these too because these are all like neat little creations that you have. So when we talk about creativity, kind of like when you come up with especially these wool paintings, stuff like that, do you strive to be unique in how you create them and everything like that?
I would say yes and no. Sometimes I really want to kind of branch out and do my own thing. I get kind of obsessed with a certain idea, or I see something and it inspires me and then I have to try to work it out in my head. Like I said, I like a challenge. Yeah. But other times I find myself really inspired by other artists, and I want to try to achieve the same thing, but differently, if that makes sense.
Your own take on something, right?
Yeah, I see it, and these aren't things that I would sell per se, but like I like being really inspired by an artist, or an artist. I kind of get like obsessed with the way they do things or the way something looks, and I will try to do that myself, knowing that like two people with the same skills and supplies will never make the same thing, but I kind of go along that line where I'm trying to mimic what they're doing just as, again, a challenge for myself. But.
So because of what you do, like what are some of those artists that you would look at or things that you would look at to inspire you that way?
Well, I actually follow a lot of artists on Instagram, people that do similar things to what I do, and on Etsy as well. Like I could name a bunch of people, but
I would know who they are probably for sure. But it's neat
They're just small artists, most of them. Like there's not specific like large, well-known artists that I follow or anything.
Okay, and then who or what experience have kind of inspired your work?
Well, I would say first of all my mom. Okay. She's a very creative person as well. She knits and she does stained glass work and she's painted. And she's always been very creative and always supported me in that. Even when I was really little, we didn't have a lot of money, but she always bought supplies for me to make things myself. And I would say two other people that have inspired me, which are kind of random and very different, but Van Gogh and Salvador Dali. Yep. Their styles are very different, but they both were very emotional creators. Like they were expressing really who they were. Yeah. And especially like Dali, he painted his fears and things that were like the crutches and the eggs. These were things that he was trying to work through his own emotions and his feelings and express himself in a very unique way. Yeah. Like there's a lot of himself in his work. And the same with Van Gogh. Like they're both a little crazy. Yeah. But they both really, it came from a place of passion and also like uncertainty and yeah, it's just there's a lot of power in those kinds of emotions, and a lot of creativity comes from that. And I really appreciate what they did for art in general, and also like their own struggles and how that came through their work.
And great that your mother supported you too, because I think that's a real key to striving to be creative. Is like if you don't have that support, sometimes you don't get to go that path that you want to, right? Yeah. And having someone like that to kind of push you and guide you and help you with is always a great thing.
There's a lot of people like that are creative, and their parents tell them like, no, you need to do this thing because you can't make any money being an artist, which granted is very difficult. But like, yeah, there's a lot of parents and a lot of people out there that are very stifling of creativity because they think that there's no real value to it. And by value, they mean money. But obviously, art has a lot of value for a lot of other reasons.
Well, there is. I mean, like, art's very therapeutic, right? Like, that's one way art's like fantastic because it can help you kind of, get through rough times. It's a very good form to kind of help you get through things and kind of I find it very therapeutic. I know. Yes. When if let's say if I'm having a down day, if I can go and do something creative, it usually will completely help my mood and kind of change everything on me there. So when was the first time that you remember realizing that you were kind of a creative person? So was there like a key moment that you were like, boom, that's me, I want to do this?
Well, the thing is actually that my mom's friends always told me that I was really talented, even when I was really little, because I made a lot of different things. And it was even, my mom would have a lot of like Tupperware parties and things like that where her friends would come over. Yeah, Tupperware. And I would pick flowers outside and make them little bouquets or little pins, corsages for when they came to make them feel special. And I always like add little flourishes to them and like little beads and things. And they thought it was so great. So I think them always telling me like, oh, you're so creative, you're so, talented at these things. I just accepted it almost as part of who I am.
Yeah, that's really kind of cool. And then if this ever happens, how do you deal with creative blocks? What are some of your processes maybe that you do to kind of get over those blocks that can happen?
I think I have a couple ways of trying to do things. Usually like I have a lot of ideas that I write down that I want to get to. So if I'm having a block, I try to pick one of these things and try to work through it. Yeah. The best way is just to put your head down kind of and get through things, even if you're feeling not really interested by it. And I think another way is to, I get a lot of inspiration on Instagram and Pinterest and things like that. Sometimes I just need to try something completely different and then come back to what I was doing before.
Yeah, Pinterest is a really nice place to go to get inspiration, I think sometimes.
It isn't, because it's kind of a vortex of time suckage.
Yeah, it just sucks you in and you just keep on.
If I'm going to go on Pinterest, I need to know that I have like an hour that I can waste there because you're going to go on and just become sucked into it. Yes. It's really difficult to pull yourself away sometimes.
So true. And then do you have anything that you do to get yourself into a creative mindset? Be it like listen to music, watch a show? Like, is there anything that you kind of do to just really kind of kick that into kind of fifth gear?
I kind of always feel creative or the need to be creative. Sometimes like if I need to do something, like I need to work on something, I will dance, put some music on and dance around, kind of get my energy out, and then I can focus a little bit better.
So dancing.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Dancing. It's silly dancing. I don't really know how to dance. I'm not a good dancer, but I kind of just like dance around all silly like, and that usually makes me feel better. I don't know.
Makes you feel better?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have it here, but do you have a favorite creation that you've maybe made or anything like that? Like, is there something that you're like really like, this is awesome?
I feel like every few months I have a favorite. Yeah. Like I make something, I'm like, this is the best, and then I make something else, and I think that that's the best.
Yeah, but you know what, you kind of want that, right? Like, you're kind of you're learning and you're gaining more knowledge that like in every couple months, if you're doing something that was better than before, that you kind of improving and getting better at your craft kind of thing. That's so. True. Is there anything here that would be one of those, like maybe in your felt paintings or anything like that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that is one of my favorite pieces. I think also it was one of my worst pieces in the sense that I got very frustrated with it as I was working on it.
Yes.
There's like 1,200 French knots on that, which are all those little bumps.
I don't know what a French knot is, so explain that to me.
A French knot is a little like fancy embroidery knot.
Okay.
That all the bumps in between the flowers there.
Yes.
But they take a really long time. So I had this vision of how I wanted it to turn out, and that took an absurd amount of time. So, I mean, usually the things that take me the longest, I feel the most attachment to, or the most proud of, because I've invested so much of my time and self into them. But, and it's fairly simple, but it did take me a really long time.
So do you draw these out beforehand at all, or is it just like straight up?
No, a lot of the time
I go with it.
I just wing it. So it's painting with wool. I have a studio in my basement, and I get out all my supplies. Sometimes I'm trying to do a picture I've seen on the internet, or I'm trying to mimic a picture from one of my favorite felting artists.
Yep.
The one that she's done in her books that I have. But most of the time I just take it all out and see what colors kind of inspire me at the moment.
Yeah.
And I will know if I want to do a landscape or flowers or something like that. And I just kind of wing it.
I didn't know about felt art, honestly, until you came and you kind of pulled these things out, because I honestly thought it was like just these little characters that you make, that I thought that was like all you did. But then you brought these out and I was like, that is really cool. I mean, you got like little, I don't know if I'm gonna bring this one up there, but like there's little sheepy guys here, and they're like sheepy sheep, like, you know, like they've got like the little sheep
those
fur, and
locks
like that's
from a sheep. It's a blue-faced Leicester, which is a different breed of sheep.
Really kind of neat.
Yeah, and it's made completely of wool. It's just wool.
And there's like
that one has sparkles.
Yeah, this one's got sparkles. Can you see that one? That one's really kind of neat too. And these are like, I don't know how you paint with wool. I mean, you've got the dye and everything like that. So like, is everything stitched and like, I don't know.
Wet felting involves hot water and friction. So you're
a lot of rubbing?
taking a lot of what?
A lot of rubbing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It takes a lot of elbow grease, which people don't know. Like, I teach classes on these, and people don't realize that it's an upper arm workout when they come. I'm like, expect to get wet because it's very messy, and expect like to be sore the next day. And people are like, what? It's crafting. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, so I dye the wool, so I usually mix it up to make the different colors. But you lay out fluffy wool onto a bamboo mat, and you create the pictures using little tufts, and these are locks that I dyed myself. Locks are just long pieces of hair, from the sheep. And then you put a netting over top, and you get it wet with really, really hot water. And the hot water, it opens the fibers of the wool. Like, there's scales on the wool that open up with hot water, and the friction makes them interlock. The scales kind of join together. And that's what makes like an actual like piece of felt. So most wool felt that you've seen in your life is made in the same kind of process, but with big machines at a mill. This is more with like elbow grease. So it takes about 40 minutes to do the initial felting, and then you roll it. So you roll it up in the bamboo mat, and you roll it about 200 times. And that shrinks everything down together. So they actually start out much larger. So they shrink about 30%. So you make the larger picture, and then by the time it's finished, this is what it looks like. So this one I haven't actually done any needle felting on, which is usually how I create like the sheep and things like that. Like, I've used my barbed needles to add those on after. But this one's it's just been wet felted, and that's just the way it looks.
So that's really kind of cool.
Yeah, most people don't know what felting is, but it's actually our oldest textile form.
Really?
Yeah.
Because again,
thousands of years old.
Didn't know. So now I want to ask some questions kind of about Entangled Forest and all your little creations and so on and so forth. So how long have you been creating? Like, how long has Entangled Forest been creating and selling the product and all that kind of stuff?
I've been working at Entangled Forest since 2012. That's when I just had my daughter. And a friend of mine gave me a needle felted fairy for my wedding. And it was really beautiful. And I was like, what is this? I've never seen this before. So she told me a bit about it. And I went on Etsy and found a kit and ordered it. It came from England. And I just started messing around. And I made a little playmat, which is a little piece with like little trees and a bunny and a little burrow. So it's like a little playscape that children can play with.
So in this kind of scale, right? Like this kind of neat little...
But it's a bit bigger, and it has little animals that fit into it. And it was actually the first time that I've ever tried something and naturally been talented at it. Like, usually I have to try really hard to like build up a skill base, and there's a lot to learn initially, but needle felting is pretty simple. It's just sculpting basically with wool. So you're rolling the wool and poking it with a sharp needle that has barbs on it, which entangles the fibers. And that's actually how I came up with the name Entangled Forest, was you're entangling the fibers when you felt, and I was making little forest playscapes.
It's like a little play on words, right?
Yeah.
It's actually, it's very, when you think about how you do your process, it does make, it's a very smart name.
Yeah.
So the next one was kind of how did you get you start, but you just explained how that all happened. It happened with a friend of yours giving you this cool little felt thing for your wedding, and then just kind of being like, oh, that's cool, let's kind of get into this. And then is there anything you're working on right now? Is there anything new or exciting that you're trying to work on right now for Entangled Forest?
Well, right now I'm actually working on developing a few patterns to be sold through my Etsy site. So I've been making little felt donuts that are actually pin cushions because they're really cute.
Yes.
So I'm working on a pattern for that. And actually large donuts are really in right now. I don't know if you've known that or realized that.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they're really big. So especially like in Australia and on Instagram and stuff like that, people have these like huge donut cushions and like donut buntings and just donut everything. So I'm jumping on board.
Yeah, so
I like donuts.
I think, Brian, what we have to do is start shooting donuts. That's what we need to do. Donuts need to go in all the pictures that we're doing going forward. So
everything.
that's it.
I went to Walmart the other day and they had shoes with donuts all over them.
Okay,
and I was like, it's catching on here.
Donut craze.
It's happening. So get ahead of the craze.
Get ahead
That's
of
the best way to do it.
So think of like how to do a shoe with donuts now. Oh, that'd be a messy
Fancy
shoot.
donuts especially.
Yeah. And then again, you've kind of gone into, got the donut. Hold on, we got to bring a donut here because we got a donut here. Look at that. We got a donut here. We got a donut. There we go. We got a donut. That's actually a pretty good looking donut. You know what? That's actually.
That looks pretty edible.
That does look pretty good. That's awesome. I can't believe you bought a donut there. Oh, I like donuts. Now I want a donut.
That's the hard part.
Well, yeah, making donuts and then not wanting to eat the donuts that you can't eat because those are not edible donuts.
But yeah, the other thing I'm working on right now is trying to develop my own signature doll, which I have over there. But
which one? You have one that you're working on?
Yeah, it's with the really long hair.
The long hair one?
Yeah.
Brian, do you mind getting me that long hair doll right on the top there? Thank you very much.
So yeah, I'm working on developing a doll. This is my first prototype. So she has a really long fairyish hair. Yeah, and her eyes are needle felted as well, which is a bit different. Like it's not a very common thing for a doll.
I'm going to continue the interview like this now. This is how I'm going to try this. Okay, so keep a straight face while I'm doing this.
I don't think I can.
Keep my head hidden. Yeah, no, I can't do it. I just couldn't keep a straight face there.
Yeah, so her name is Luna, and they're going to be Luna dolls. They're inspired by like the phases of the moon.
The phases of the moon.
Yeah, and some of them will have fairy wings, and some of them will be like fawns and things like that.
I know.
Really, like mythical creatures.
That my daughters would absolutely love these. Like I already know that. So we're gonna have to talk about that afterwards.
My daughter's tried to keep it a few times, and
Yes.
I think it's hard for her that I make so many cute things, and she wants to keep everything.
Yeah, she's like, I want this one.
But mommy, if no one buys this, can I have it?
She's like, you got $85? Fork it up.
Save your allowance. You can buy one for mommy.
And then we've kind of also talked about the process for your designing your projects, and we've kind of already gone over how you go about doing them and everything like that. So what kind of got you into the doll part of this? What triggered that?
I think it was because I found someone on Etsy that makes these really cute doll patterns, which are what these ones are made from.
Yeah.
And her shop is called Ginger Melon, which is really cute as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has like hundreds of different designs. And I saw them and I was like, oh my gosh, I have some felt. I really want to make some of these. So I started making the animals, and I couldn't stop. I was like, I really like crafting cute things, I've discovered. Every time it comes out, I'm like, this is absurdly cute. I want to keep it. Well, if I want to keep it, other people will probably want to buy it.
Yes.
And then I kind of tested out selling them last year at Christmas craft fairs. And they went really well.
Yeah, a great time of year to do something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So they kind of took off from there, and I just bought more and more patterns. And then I started making larger dolls, and then I wanted to kind of go on my own path from that. Now that I've had some experience with making them, I wanted to design my own.
That's cool. Do you do classes for this stuff as well, or just for the felt?
Mostly for the felting. So I do needle felting and wet felting classes.
Yeah.
I do quite a variety of classes, but yeah.
That's very, very neat. And then kind of what tips would you have for aspiring crafters? So people that kind of want to go down this path, is there something that you'd be like, this is why you want to do it?
I would say to be true to yourself, like Polonius says in Hamlet. Do what makes you feel happy instead of what you think will sell to other people. Because a lot of the time we want to turn our talents into an income that we can, if you're a one-income family or if you're trying to do it full-time. People often kind of sacrifice their own desires and passions for what they think other people will like. But really, you're not going to enjoy it, and it's not going to stick. You're not going to stick with it if you're not feeling inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
If you work from a place of your own creativity and your own passion, that will come out through your work, and people will want to buy it because they'll see you and your passion, and they will recognize that and realize that it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's a great answer, actually. I love how you answered that, because that goes for any kind of form of art, I think, is if you're doing what you love and you're doing it how you love it, and it's your product that's really coming out of it.
People will see that,
Absolutely.
and they will love it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's really kind of all the questions I have. I think, you've got some really cool little creations here. I mean, again, I didn't know you did all the other stuff. It was just the dolls that when I first saw them, I was like, hey, that'd be really neat to kind of talk about that. But you do so much more than just the little dolls. And so, for the dolls, like what's a price range for, some of these dolls? Luna's expensive, I'm going with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because she will have a lot of accessories with her.
Yes.
But some of the smaller dolls are actually quite affordable. Like the little animals, the little bunnies are like $25,
Yeah.
which isn't much. They take me a while to make too. Some of the, like these ones are $35. Some of my felted.
How much is the donut?
The donut is $10.
Okay. That's an expensive donut.
That is an expensive donut. But yeah, it really depends on how much time things take me and the amount of like work and cost that goes into them. But you also have to price things for the market too.
Absolutely.
You can't charge like, oh, this thing took me 40 hours, so it's $500 or something. Like that one.
That'd be nice, right?
Yeah. People don't often want to pay for your time.
No, it's true. It's true. And I mean, I can attest to, I think we can all attest to that, is that, time that you put into your work, sometimes people don't understand the value behind it, and they don't see, that, sure. I mean, as a photographer, it's like, oh, you only did an hour's worth of work. I'm like, no, there wasn't an hour. I was there for an hour. I took your pictures, but there's,
there's prep ahead.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into
cost,
anything.
There's all the editing and afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes the same with you, right? Like, I mean, you have to find your product, right? You need to find all the tools you need in order to do this, and then you obviously have to do all your hand rolling that you do with all your, all that kind of stuff. So there's, it's important that that you put value to your work, and looking at your little creations. I mean, they're totally worth what I think what you're doing and everything like that. So where can people go to find this stuff? Where can they shop?
On Etsy.
Etsy?
Is mostly, yeah.
Do you have like a Etsy like?
Yeah, it's etsy.com/shop/Entangled
Entangled
Forest.
Forest. Okay.
I'm also on Instagram at Entangled Forest.
Yes.
I have a Facebook page, and I do a lot of local craft fairs and stuff. I used to be a part of the Deep River Farmers Market.
Okay.
But I'm not doing that this year. I will be doing a lot of craft fairs in the fall again, but. Yeah, mostly
awesome.
on Etsy.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming by and having a conversation with me. Thank everybody for joining us for our 7th episode, and we look forward to everybody coming and joining us next month. And that is it. So thanks, and have a great day. Thank you very much.